Welcome back. Going to do Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. So without further ado, I'm going to just jump right in. For we do not wrestle. This is the English and most of what the Greek lines up with. And you're going to see that it's not exactly wrong. It's not wrong. It's not, it is different. I feel like the Hebrew usually has more than one meaning, or it has a better meaning or a more in-depth meaning. So you're about to see who we're actually fighting against. So, Ephesians 6 verse 12. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So as I said in my other video, certain Hebrew words interest me throughout the entire New Testament, which is why I do word searches and am trying to expand my Hebrew through the New Testament and through the Old Testament, through Hebrew literacy, which is great for teaching Hebrew and is on Telegram for extra one-on-one questions. Right? I believe he answers on YouTube and all that too. Just haven't had the chance. So I ran a few words by him, by Rabbi Jeremy, just so I am clear, so I'm not making this up in case I'm having a hard time Google it and can't really get to the root of a word. I'm going to somebody that knows Hebrew and has been teaching it for more than 30 years and is efficient in Greek as well, and has a lot of people on his team on the Telegram especially that know Hebrew for 10 plus years, and some of them less. So without further ado, I'm going to just share with you how to read this verse. I did a word for word breakdown. I'm going to read it in Hebrew. Ki lo'im basar vadam milchama lanu ach im alufim ve'elim shleti eretz ma'apela u'malachei ra'im asher bam romim. That's the Hebrew. In the English, it's a bit clunky, and so when we clean it up, it'll sound a lot better. But roughly, the English is, for not with flesh and blood war fight to us, or do we, now or only hardly with champions, gods, rulers of the land of darkness, and angels or messengers, evil ones, evil messengers, which are in high places. So it's a bit clunky, but we're going to clean it up in a bit. Going back to word studies. So I ran this by the guys in the chat, and I wanted to know what the word for... Oh, well, first of all, let us go to the beginning. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood. Derek Prince interpreted this in his Greek version by saying we're not fighting people with bodies, right? Because these demons are disembodied spirits. They are not flesh and blood. They just don't have bodies. They're spiritual creatures. The word for wrestle is actually the word war and fight. So we fight, or we war not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. Now the word for principalities here is alufim. Now this word typically pops up as champions. It also means military generals, chieftains, or champions. The word for elim is typically, it's a plural form. Now el is singular, which means rams, so elim means rams, plural. The interesting thing about this word, though, is that it seems to be related to the gods. because it's spelled or it's pronounced almost the same as Elim. So in Exodus 15, when you sing the Mihamocha,
Ba'elim Adonai.
So when you say Mihamocha Ba'elim Yahuwah, who is like you? Ba'elim, among the gods. And then it has the name of God, Yahuwah. So Mihamocha is who is like you.
Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods?
So going back to that though, Ba'elim is Bet, Aleph, Lamed, Mem. Right? Among the Elim, among the gods. Now here, Elim is spelled differently. It's Aleph, Yod, Lamed, Yod, Mem. So this could be a more ancient word or spelling of this word. At maybe around Paul's time, that's how they spelled it versus how they spelled it back in Exodus. Nobody could really give me a straight answer on that, but there is another possibility, and this one I actually like a lot better. This word is also used in the Old Testament in the book of Isaiah. When Isaiah uses it, the way they translate it to English is as gardens. And there's various reasons why as to how the Hebrew is constructed that they interpret the word for it to mean that, because it doesn't really make sense with the Hebrew structure of the sentence to mean anything else. It's really hard to go off of that. So the Septuagint, asking Rabbi Jeremy, he went over the Septuagint, and the way the Septuagint interpreted the word Elim is as idols. And what are idols? Gods, right? So it's just interesting how gardens or idols. I don't think gardens fits the description. I do think idols fits a lot better, especially referring to gods. And sounding very close to Elim and being spelled with two more yods in it to make it Elim. But there's also another interpretation that I liked a lot better. So one of the guys, he said that it could also mean ram gods. Since it is the gods, since it is rams, it could be referring to ram gods, the Baphomet, the five-pointed star. Because the five-pointed satanic star has the word Leviathan in Hebrew around it. What Paul could have been talking about here is we are not fighting against flesh and blood, but against the Baphomet, the ram gods, the Elim. If that's what Paul is talking about, this Leviathan Baphomet has been here for a long time. It was clearly in the apostles' face. And the next word is shliti, which means the rulers, or the governors, or the masters. Eretz means land or earth. So you can say the masters or rulers of the land, or masters or rulers of the earth. Now, ma'apela means darkness, but in Jeremiah it is translated as deep darkness. Malachi could mean my messengers or the messengers, and in this sense I would agree with the Greek in calling it the messengers. But it's also the same word for angels. So usually messengers are angels, right? They're not always. Same with the Greek. It means the same thing in the Greek. Angelo, right? It's angel, but it also means messenger. Same thing with the Hebrew. Malak, Malachi, the messenger, the angel. Ra'im means evil or wickedness. So there's several ways you can play with how these words are. Asher means which, that, and then bam romim or bam romim means in high places. So there's a lot of ways you can play with this. So we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against champions, against the Baphomet, the ram gods, how the Greek interpreted it as powers. the rulers or masters or the governors of the land of darkness, or the governors of the earth, or the masters of the land of deep darkness. There's so many ways you can play with the Hebrew here. And the messengers of wickedness, or the angels, or the evil angels, which are, or that are, in high places. Are would be implied, because there's no word for it. So that is my word study. I hope I added some depth to your faith by going back to the Hebrew, seeing how the Greek interpreted it. And in some ways it's the same or is different, because usually the Hebrew has a lot more meaning to each word. I hope you enjoyed this study. So until next time, thank you.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar ba'kodesh, nora tehilot osef elei, who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you, Lord, there is none else. You are awesome in praise, doing wonders, O Lord. Who is like you?